Is a dark empath worse than a narcissist? Imagine you meet someone and it just clicks. They don't just listen to you, they seem to hear the music your soul is playing. They can name your deepest fears and your quietest dreams with a precision that feels like coming home. You feel this profound sense of being seen. But what if that perfect understanding isn't a bridge to connection? What if it's actually a blueprint for your breakdown? Everyone warns you about the narcissist, the loud, grandiose personality you can often spot from a mile away. But what about the manipulator who wears kindness as their sharpest weapon? This is the world of the dark empath, and the chilling reality is that their ability to understand you is the very tool they'll use to take you apart. Today, we're not just defining terms, we're stepping into the emotional arena to ask a difficult question. Is the dark empath truly more dangerous than a narcissist? To figure this out, we need to dissect their methods, understand their impact, and arm you with the knowledge to see past their masks. Because in the game of psychological warfare, the enemy you don't see coming is always the most lethal, the known enemy. The narcissist. First, let's talk about the devil we know, the narcissist. The term gets thrown around a lot, but at its core, narcissism is defined by a pattern of grandiosity, a desperate need for admiration, and a stunning lack of empathy. Think of a narcissist as an emotional black hole. Their entire world revolves around getting narcissistic supply, praise, admiration, conflict, even your fear, as long as it keeps them at the center of the universe. Their tactics are often pretty obvious. Their grandiosity makes them arrogant and boastful. They dominate conversations, dismiss your wins, and fly into a rage or give you the silent treatment if you criticize them. This is called a narcissistic injury. Their lack of affective empathy, the ability to feel what others are feeling, is a fundamental deficit. While they might be able to intellectually understand you're upset, they don't share in that feeling. They see people as props in their own personal movie. They're the star, and everyone else is just a supporting character who can be written off the second they stop being useful to the plot. Their manipulation, while incredibly damaging, often follows a predictable cycle. First comes the intoxicating love bombing, where they drown you in affection. Next is the brutal devaluation, where they criticize and belittle you, leaving you desperate for their approval again. And finally, the discard, where they drop you once you're no longer a good source of supply. The damage they cause is immense, but because their self-centeredness is so loud, their toxicity can sometimes be easier to spot over time. They cause harm through a kind of emotional blindness. They just don't see or care about the wreckage they leave behind. The hidden threat, the dark empath. Now, let's venture into the shadows to meet a far more sophisticated manipulator, the dark empath. The name itself sounds like a contradiction, right? How can you be both dark and an empath? It's important to clarify that dark empath isn't a formal diagnosis. It's a relatively new term psychologists are using to describe people who have dark triad traits, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy, but who also have high cognitive empathy. Here's the key difference. Effective empathy is feeling with someone. When they're sad, you feel sad. Cognitive empathy is understanding what they're feeling and why on an intellectual level. Most of us have a mix of both. A classic narcissist has a major deficit in the feeling part. But the dark empath has tons of cognitive empathy, while the effective feeling part is switched off. This is precisely what makes them so dangerous. They have the emotional intelligence of a true empath, but the malicious goals of a psychopath. They can read you like a book and pinpoint your deepest insecurities with scary accuracy. But instead of using that insight to comfort or connect, they use it as a weapon. Their empathy isn't about compassion, It's an intelligence-gathering tool. They are the spies of the emotional world, learning the layout of your psyche, not to become a trusted friend, but to find the best routes for sabotage and control. They aren't emotionally blind like the narcissist. They see your pain with perfect clarity. They just don't care. In fact, some might even enjoy knowing they caused it. If this breakdown is hitting home and maybe making you think about people in your own life, take a second to subscribe. Our goal here is to give you the clarity to navigate complex human behavior, and your support helps us keep making this content. The showdown, dark empath versus narcissist. Okay, so let's put them side by side. This is where the differences really start to matter in spotting who you might be dealing with. The empathy paradox, weaponized versus absent. The biggest difference is how they use empathy. For a narcissist, empathy is a foreign language. Any attempt to show it feels fake because they're just mimicking words without the emotion. They might say, "That's too bad," with all the feeling of someone commenting on the weather. For them, it's a deficit. For the dark empath, empathy isn't absent, it's weaponized. They're fluent in your emotional language, and they use it to deceive you. Let's say you share a painful childhood memory. A narcissist might get bored and change the subject back to them. But a dark empath will lean in. They'll listen intently and say something like, "That must have made you feel so alone, and it sounds like you had to build walls just to survive. You feel this incredible rush of validation." And they get it. But that moment of connection is actually an intelligence operation. They've just found a core vulnerability, your fear of abandonment, and filed it away for later. During a fight, they can use it against you, saying something like, "No wonder you're overreacting. You've always had trouble trusting people." They turn your own truths into weapons. The art of manipulation, subtle versus overt. This leads to their different manipulation styles. A narcissist's manipulation is usually overt and all about their ego. They use obvious tactics like love bombing, insults, and straightforward gaslighting. "That never happened. You're being crazy." They demand your admiration. A dark empath's manipulation is way more subtle and sinister. They are masters of emotional puppet mastery. Instead of demanding, they guide. They use guilt-tripping, passive aggression, and malicious jokes to control you. For instance, before a big presentation, they might say, "I'm so excited for you. I know you get anxious with public speaking, but just try not to let it show. You'll be great." The surface message is supportive, but the real message plants a seed of self-doubt. They make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. If you tell them no, they might look wounded and say, "I was only trying to help. I guess I just care too much." This flips the script, making you the bad guy and them the victim. It's so sneaky that it leaves you feeling confused and blaming yourself. The social mask, deceptive charm versus grandiose performance. Socially, a narcissist's charm is a performance to get admiration. They are the life of the party, telling huge stories about themselves and soaking up the spotlight. Their charm is a broadcast, it's all about them. A dark empath's charm is relational and deceptive. They don't need to be the center of attention. They just need to be the center of your attention. They do this by expertly mirroring you, adopting your mannerisms, your values, and showing intense interest in your life. This creates a powerful soulmate feeling. They seem like the perfect partner or friend. Their mask isn't about showing off their greatness. It's about making you feel so understood that you give them your complete trust. This lets them get much closer than a narcissist ever could. The expression of aggression, indirect versus direct. When challenged, a narcissist is known for narcissistic rage. Their fragile ego shatters, and they lash out with explosive anger and insults. It's a direct, terrifying assault. A dark empath prefers indirect aggression. They'll use the silent treatment, not as a clumsy punishment, but as a calculated move to make you feel anxious and abandoned. They use malicious humor, jokes with a cruel sting of truth, to belittle you while having plausible deniability. If you call them out, they'll just say, "What? It was a joke. You're too sensitive." This is psychological sabotage, slowly chipping away at your self-esteem. A narcissist's aggression is a frontal assault. A dark empath's is a slow-acting poison. The aftermath, the emotional toll on victims. The emotional fallout from these relationships also looks different. A relationship with a narcissist often leaves the victim feeling invalidated and worthless. The constant gaslighting makes them question their reality. Healing is about rebuilding self-esteem and learning to trust your perceptions again. The aftermath of a dark empath is arguably more psychologically disorienting. Because they used understanding to hurt you, you're left questioning your ability to trust anyone, especially yourself. The core wound is a profound sense of betrayal. How could someone who seemed to get you so perfectly use that knowledge to destroy you? This can lead to a deep fear of intimacy, where being seen feels like a threat. Healing requires grieving the loss of what felt like a once-in-a-lifetime connection and learning to spot the difference between real empathy and its manipulative counterfeit. The verdict: who is worse? So, back to the big question. Is a dark empath worse than a narcissist? The truth is, it's not a formal competition, and there's no scientific consensus on who is worse. It's like asking whether it's worse to be hit by a bus or to be slowly poisoned. Both are devastating, they just operate differently. The narcissist is like a charging bull. The danger is direct, destructive, and often easy to see. You see the bull coming, even if you can't get out of the way. The dark empath, however, is like a venomous snake in the grass. The danger is subtle, hidden, and much harder to detect. You invite them into your life thinking you've found safety, only to realize too late that they've been poisoning you all along. You could argue that the dark empath is more insidious because their abuse is so hard to spot. Victims often stay longer, suffering a slow erosion of their psyche. Their tactics are more refined, their mask is more convincing, and the psychological chaos they create is profound. Ultimately, both are incredibly harmful. The label is less important than the damage they cause. Protection and empowerment. Recognizing these patterns is your first line of defense. Here are a few key strategies. Pace the intimacy. Be cautious of instant connections that feel too perfect. Real trust is built slowly through consistent, reliable actions. Intense soulmate vibes right off the bat can be a major red flag for mirroring. Observe actions over words. Manipulators are great with words. Pay less attention to what they say and more attention to what they do. Do their actions actually back up their supportive words? Or do their actions always seem to benefit them at your expense? Trust your gut, especially confusion. If someone consistently leaves you feeling drained, guilty, or just plain confused, listen to that feeling. Confusion is a huge byproduct of subtle manipulation. Don't brush it off. Enforce hard boundaries. Practice setting firm boundaries and sticking to them. A healthy person will respect a boundary. A manipulative person will push, test, and try to make you feel guilty for having it in the first place. In the end, you don't need to diagnose anyone. You are, however, obligated to protect your own peace. The narcissist harms through emotional blindness, a giant void where empathy should be. The dark empath harms through weaponized sight, using their clear view into your soul to exploit you. One is a bulldozer, the other is a saboteur. By understanding the different playbooks, you move from a place of confusion to a place of clarity. You learn to recognize not just the loud red flags of grandiosity, but also the quiet ones, like empathy, that feels too good to be true. You learn that genuine connection empowers you, while manipulative connection makes you doubt yourself. And armed with that knowledge, you can protect your heart from those who would use the beautiful human need for connection as a weapon against you. What are your experiences with these personality types? Have you ever met someone who used understanding as a tool for control? Share your thoughts below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. And for more deep dives like this, make sure to subscribe.